Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and that you're following the 3 ages of the channel. In this video, it's all about strange things that occur just outside of towns and cities. That weird spot where the wilderness and civilization kind of meet. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. So about 9 years ago, in 2016, I became unemployed and I couldn't find any job, so I took up a gig as a trucker. It wasn't a huge company, it was just kind of one that operates in the American Southwest, and when I was driving these shifts, it was usually either late at night or overnight, so during this particular time, I was admittedly exhausted. Not the kind of exhausted where you know that your eyes are getting heavy. I'm talking the kind where you know that if you don't do something soon, you're going to pass out at the wheel. Luckily, I see this sign. To tell you how tired I wasn't even able to read the full sign. I just saw the words, truck rest stop, facilities, quiet, safe. This was good enough for me. I pull in at the next exit. I don't see a stop, only a sign. It says, closed. But I keep driving, thinking maybe it's just down the road further. I see another sign. What was weird about the sign is that it didn't have miles on it. It had next town, 10 kilometers. And I know that there are some signs scattered throughout the American Southwest that still have kilometers on them. They're just really old. But I figured that I was actually seeing things, so I needed to sleep. I was also figuring, like I said, that the truck stop was actually down the road further, so I keep driving. The road is completely empty. It looks like it's now fallen into deep disrepair. But eventually, I get to this next town. The town is sketchy as all hell. Not sketchy as in crime-ridden, but sketchy in that it looks like it went south in the 1960s. I keep driving around, trying to find a stop, but there's nothing to be seen. All the stores and houses looked like they hadn't been touched for ages. Eventually, I pull over near what looks like an old school. I was way too tired to care. Fast forward 8 hours. I hear a bang, 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 knocking on my door. It's a state trooper. I open up my door, asking if I can help them. He responds, "Sir, you're not supposed to stop here." I say, "Yeah, I'm probably blocking traffic and whatnot." He looks at me like I'm crazy. He said, "Sir, there's no traffic here. This road has been closed since the late 1950s. I take a look outside. There's nothing around. There's no buildings like I saw, nothing. As a matter of fact, I can see right to the exit that I took on the highway. It's all just flat land." I ask, "How is this possible? I saw buildings and whatnot on the way in. They looked old, but there was still a town." The state trooper pretty much flatly responds, "Yeah, you and everyone else." And then he chuckles a bit and says to have a nice day. You see some weird things in the American Southwest. I'm glad that I have a different job now. Around 2001, I was 11 years old, and I was waiting for the bus on this particular day. Now my house then was out in the country, so my bus stop was a few miles away from my house. All around are just woods until you get into town. There's only one road, in and out. This is rural Montana, so that should give you an idea of just the kind of area that my house was in. The bus even had to make a special route just for me. One morning I'm out there earlier than usual because my parents are fighting again, and to be honest, I was just sick of it and didn't want to deal with that. So it's early November. It's cold, but not freezing. The tourist season is over, so I'm not really looking around for anyone else. I figure I'm alone, so I put in my headphones in and jam out to some sweet tunes while I wait. I was doing a sick air guitar riff when I notice there's a guy across the street watching me. My first thought was, oh, how long has he been watching me? I'm trying to pretend that I'm just scratching an itch or something because, holy, that was embarrassing. The guy didn't seem to care. He just keeps staring at me. He looks like a stereotypical hiker. He has a backpack, boots, and everything. I think to myself that it's pretty late in the season for hikers. I started getting a little irritated that the guy is just standing there like I'm some tourist attraction. I turn my back on him and make my music louder. I still feel his eyes on me. Eventually I turn back around. He's still there, in the same place. I start getting super creeped out, thinking what's this weirdo's deal? The bus should be here any time now, and I'm kinda hoping it gets here quick. The guy extremely slowly reaches into his pocket and then slowly pulls out a disposable camera. He puts it up to his face. His finger slowly presses the button, and he takes a picture of me. I have no idea what to do. But he's not done yet. He slowly turns the camera around and takes a picture of his own face. I'm thoroughly freaked out now. At 11 years old, I was absolutely certain that I was about to be serial killered. And then, just like that, the bus finally comes. I run up to it and throw myself inside as soon as the doors open. The bus driver's looking at me like I'm an idiot. I tell her that there's a weird guy standing around taking pictures of me. Where? She says. I look up. The guy's gone. I'm thinking he must have taken off when the bus came. So fast forward to later on that day. The bus drops me off at the same spot. I make sure the guy isn't there when I get off. He seems to be gone. The bus leaves, and I decide that I have to go look around the area where he was. There's something up by the road. I pick it up. It's the disposable camera. I pocket it, and I get the pictures developed as soon as I saved up enough allowance to do it myself. I didn't tell my parents because I didn't want them to start driving me to school. Stupid, I know. So I sneak off one day when my parents are shopping, and I tell the photo developer guy in the photo department that I found the camera and I don't know what's on it. He says he'll take a look. The next time I can sneak off during shopping, I go to pick up the pictures. The guy gives me a refund. I'm thinking, oh, that's weird. He said there were only 2 pictures on the camera. He's looking at me weird. He gives me the 2 photos. One of them is very clearly of me staring at the camera with a worried expression. It looks like it was taken across the street. I already know what the second photo is going to be. My heart is pounding as I take it out of the envelope. He's staring right into the camera. I remember him not moving, but there's some kind of weird effect going on with him. It's like a motion blur or something. And then I realize what freaked me out so bad about just looking at the picture. His eyes were entirely black, with only a small white dot where the pupil would normally be. This scares the absolute shit out of me. I end up asking the guy to just destroy the pictures, and then I just note back to my parents and try to forget about the whole thing. So I used to be an armed security guard. At the time, I carried a J-frame 38. I worked the 3rd shift. It was fire watch at this abandoned factory complex. It was essentially the middle of nowhere. It was outside of the industrial park of my city. The factory is a 10-acre complex with 18 large buildings, and some are very, very old. There are maybe 3 lights on the whole site that still work. A few of them flicker. I was doing routine patrol around 2 a.m. There's this feral cat that lives there. He always follows me around while I'm working, muling for food. Something about this complex always felt off to me. There were certain areas where the hair on the back of your neck would just stand up for seemingly no reason. There's razor wire everywhere. No one should be inside, and the only entrance is the guardhouse. I walk past a warehouse building. There's a light on, dimly in the entrance. I think nothing of it, and continue my patrol. I have gotten through most of the buildings now. I come back around to enter the warehouse. The light is now off. I'm immediately thinking that something is wrong. I draw my sidearm and start looking around. The door is locked securely. I notice something though. The cat is no longer with me. I shine my flashlight back. The cat has planted itself on the ground, 20 feet back, locked in a dead stare with the upper windows of the building. I slowly bring my flashlight up to the upper floors of this building, and as I get to where the cat's looking, I catch something running away from the window. It looks skinny and tall. When this happens, I look back at the cat, who's now growling. Its tail is puffed out. I was scared shitless, but I had to go and unlock the building and enter to see what was going on. I have to go from room to room to see what's going on, if anything. As I'm halfway through the warehouse rooms, it's way too quiet and way too still. The fact I have a gun is not making me any less freaked out, even though I know it really should. I feel like something is watching me the entire time. I enter this room with stairs to the basement level of the main factory, where all the chemicals were kept. There's this giant nest thing. It's made out of blankets, old clothes, leaves, papers that are large enough to block the entrance to the stairs. As soon as my flashlight hits this huge sheet of paper, I can see a shadow behind it. It's squatting down. It seems to realize that it's being observed and sees my flashlight. I see it stand up, and it is inhumanly tall. And then I hear something else coming up the stairs toward me. I turn and sprint out of there as fast as I can, locking every door on the way, and I go back to my guardhouse. I actually write down in my log what I saw. I go back to watching Infinite Stratos, drink Monster, and try to pretend that this didn't happen. I entered that building maybe once the entire rest of the time I was posted there, and still completely avoided that wing of the factory. But I have one other just strange experience from that place. A few weeks after this, it was the same place, the same third shift again. I was on patrol. I decided to stop in the middle of the yard under the floodlight for a smoke. I was screwing around with my mag light for a bit. It was one of those 4D cell lights. I tried to see if I can light up the building on the other side of the site. I can see the beam hit the top of the incinerator stack a long way from me. If you've ever done overnight security, you find really anything to kind of take your mind off of things or to amuse yourself. After my smoke, I have to begin my rounds of the main factory building. It's the oldest one next to the incinerator and the aforementioned warehouse. I clear the first floor. I go up to the second. All the lights are burnt out on this floor. All of them. I have my mag light out. I step out to the second floor. The second factory floor is maybe 100 meters long of open space. I shine my bright mag light down the floor. I double take. I shine the light down again. I can't see the end of the room. The light dimly illuminates maybe 75% of the way down the floor, and then just stops, like there's a wall there. I decide to go a different way around. I go up to the third floor. I go to the stairs on the other side of the floor, and go down the stairs to the second floor to shine my light down the other side where my light didn't reach. This time, it illuminates the room just fine from this direction. This isn't really creepy or scary, it's just weird how that works. I repeat what I just did and go back up to the third floor, back down to the second again, and the light still only reaches about 75% of the way before just stopping. It's just odd. But yeah, I didn't stay there very much longer after that first experience. It got to the point where I just stopped doing patrols. I just BS'd my logs and hung out in the guardhouse in the recliner all night with my laptop. So in the late 90s, when I was 17, my uncle was letting me stay at his old farmhouse for the weekend. It was just outside of this small town. It was a relatively quiet and lonely place. There were huge, open fields surrounded by woods. There was a grain silo and the barn with a few animals, chickens, 2 turkeys, a goat, and even a peacock somehow. So he drives into the city for the weekend to sleep with this girl that he's into. He says, "I'm leaving you the place, just make sure to feed the animals once a day, and if you drink all the beer, pay for it," and kinda winks at me. So of course, I'm going to invite some friends, some girls, over for drinking and romantic country walks. Also, GoldenEye on the N64 because it was the best game ever. So there's me, Eric, Robert, Jeremy, along with Ellie, Diana, and Jessica. I was super into Diana. To me, she was the hottest woman I had ever seen at the time. So you all know why I invited her. So we all start drinking and messing around in the garage. I tell everyone that we should go to the barn and get up in the top area to screw around. We get up there, we bring some food, some more beer. We start talking and we get into a big circle. Diana sits right next to me. So you can imagine I was just thanking every god I could think of for this. Everything is normal at first. We start sharing ghost stories. Now Diana is half Hispanic and half Asian. She starts telling us about La Llorona and whatnot, the crying ghost lady, and some stories from her father's side of Japan. So it's mildly spooky, but instead of being really scary, she has this cute voice. It sounds like a little mouse. So it just loses all atmosphere, and I just find it cute. At some point during all of us talking, her head kinda falls on my shoulder. There's one of those hanging workman's lamp things hanging up in the barn. I don't remember what they're called right now. So there's a lull in the conversation. It's kinda quiet. Everyone's just thinking, sipping at their beer, or murmuring. I start to smell something. It's this disgusting smell like rotted meat dipped in perfume. It was sickly sweet. I push it off as dead mice or something stupid. I was kind of an idiot at 17. I mean, I still am, but I was more of an idiot back then. I put my arm around Diana. I ask if anyone else wants more beer. I offer to go back to the house to get it. One of my friends, probably Robert, says, "Sure, dickhead." So I laugh and get up and brush myself off. I head for the ladder to get down. The ladder is missing. I was too annoyed to be scared. I turn and ask who messed with the ladder. Everyone looks at me, genuinely mystified at the missing ladder. I shrug, decide that maybe it fell down and I just can't see it. I figure that I'll just have to drop through the hole, brace myself for the drop, and then put the ladder back up on the way back. So I get to the edge of the hole. I smell that gross smell again and almost stop, but I don't want to look like a pussy, especially in front of Diana. So I drop my feet through the hole and start to lower myself down when I feel something wet smack against my exposed ankle. I immediately push myself back up so fast with the bitchiest yelp I've ever made or heard, and I scramble away from the hole. One of my friends, probably Robert again, said, "What's up, pussy?" But I wasn't in the mood at all. I said, "Either the turkeys have super long, wet necks now, or there's someone down there that grabbed my leg." Everyone's like, "Very funny, man, stop it." I say, "I'm serious." I kick my leg out to show them where the guy or whatever it was touched me. There's this brownish, reddish goop on my ankle. It's really sticky and smells like that rotten meat put on display at a department store. One of the girls asks, "What is that?" I have no idea, so I shake my head. I tell them that I'm just going to chill up here for a bit and someone else can head down if they want to. Eric gets up to take a look, but is obviously frightened as hell, like he should be. That smell is hanging around, thick and cloying. He looks down the hole to the ground level and backs away slowly. That's when we hear it. It sounds weird. It's like a ho Just like that, everyone freezes. Ellie is all over Eric now. Everyone else is too afraid to move. The voice was flat and slow. It sounded like someone trying to figure out how to say words. It keeps repeating that noise, the pitch slowly changing over time. We're huddling up together. Everyone's here, so we know that there's no one screwing with us. My uncle doesn't have any neighbors for miles. And then something terrifying happens. We hear, "Who messed with the ladder?" Everyone turns to look at me. That was my voice. I shake my head vigorously, like I'm trying to realize if this is real or not. This thing, whatever it was practicing with my voice and is now saying other things in my voice, catching on to the speech way more quickly than before. None of us have cell phones because this is the late 90s, so we couldn't really call the cops or anything. We're all just kind of huddled together, trying not to talk because hearing it say those things is extremely disconcerting. I was silently thankful that it was stupid enough to remove the ladder. The smell starts to fade slowly, and I figure it's gone by the time the stench is gone. Suddenly I get balls of steel out of nowhere and decide that we should all drop down and make a break for the house. Everyone sort of agrees. Jeremy and Jess don't want to be left alone, so they end up agreeing. The 8 of us all collect around the hole and take a peek. We don't see anything, but there's some smears of that reddish-brown goop all over the floor. I try to push it to the back of my mind. I decide that I'll go first, drop down, and wave everyone down. We were all sort of uncoordinated and screwed up from what beer we've had, but thankfully it wasn't much. Everyone's down in a few moments. We all grab hands like 5-year-olds crossing the street and start to walk to the house at a brisk pace, not wanting to draw its attention and not wanting to trample each other like dumbasses. And then we hear this wet smack on the concrete floor of the barn. After hearing this, our plan falls apart. Everyone just starts to run, barely holding each other's hands. My hand slips from Diana's for a moment, but a strong, warm hand grabs it again, and no one calls out like they're lost. All 8 of us return to the house. Wait. 8? Me, Eric, Jeremy, Robert, Diana, Ellie, Jessica. That's 7. Everyone seems to realize this and nopes out hard, looking at everyone else. There were only 7 of us again. I want to puke when I realize it. I wasn't holding Diana's hand the second time. Something else grabbed my hand. But for some reason, it didn't follow us into the house. Maybe it wasn't a fan of late 70s decor. I don't know. We scramble through the living room. I stop and grab my uncle's compound bow and a few arrows from the display cabinet for some reason, as if I'm going to knock an arrow and kill this X-Files thing when I haven't gone hunting in years. Everyone piles up into the kitchen. It's raised up and away from the living room, and it kind of looks out into it where the main door is. I sit and watch over the sink. My fingers are trembling. I was barely able to hold the $1,000 bow in my hand. It might as well be a paperweight. And then we hear this wet smacking and thudding against the front door. The screen door is shaking as well. It's asking, in my voice and others now, to be let in, slowly stringing together words from sentences that it heard to make its own. It stops after a while, and we start to calm down. I go to find the phone. While I'm doing this, I hear this soft tapping on the glass. I freeze and spin around. This jerking, twisting amalgamation of flesh is wearing a mix of my face and somebody else's, tapping almost politely at the sliding glass door of the patio. I lose my shit and almost go to draw and shoot, but something tells me that it can't enter the house without being invited. I inch away slowly, its eyes following me up to the kitchen, and it just stares at me, tapping and tapping. We all keep a watch, but it can't really do anything, so it jerks and slithers and shifts away and tries the front door again. It continues into the light of the morning. We all said screw it the next day. I left the bag of feed open for all the animals, and we drove to Robert's house, and we camped out in the basement for Saturday and Sunday. My uncle, however, acted extremely weird and standoffish when I brought it up. He ended up moving 2 months later, and honestly, I haven't spoken to him since then. He won't talk to me or our whole side of the family. I wonder if he tried to sacrifice me to it or something. So those encounters were pretty scary, weren't they? If one of them stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. As always, if you have one of your own, I have an email in the description below that you can send it to if you'd like to. Also down there are links to a PayPal and a Patreon if you would like to support the channel that way. And of course, there's super thanks here on YouTube. And just watching the video, commenting, liking, sharing, and all that free stuff really helps the channel too. So with all of that, if you're not subscribed yet, I hope you will. And yeah, I think I will leave you to the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you Friday.